those speaking. We thank you for your son, Jesus. We thank you for the cross. We thank you most of all for just allowing this life, Lord, a new breath every day, Lord. We thank you for just the freedom in our country, just to read the Bible, just to worship you. We thank you for new opportunities. We thank you for the school. We thank you for the university. So just be with the service and be with everyone.
Check 1, 2, hey. All right, thrilled to have our guest this morning and our moderator of this wonderful meeting. Charity Powell is the Director of Diversity and Community. Yes, I got it right. All right, I get paid $1 if I get it right, just saying. All right, so she is going to share with us this morning some great things that are happening here, and so we're excited to have Charity Powell. Charity, will you take it away?
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Great, you actually spoke back. I'm so proud of you guys. Okay, so like Jamie said, I'm Charity Powell, Director of Diversity and Community here, but also two-time graduate of Campbellsville University, so I'm a pretty proud alum at this point. So this morning, what we want to do is we want to celebrate first-generation college students. And by the end of this, everybody in the room will actually know what that means. That's the goal. If we leave there, then we've done what we came to do. But first, I need everyone to stand up. Everybody stand up. We're going to have some intense question and answer kind of situation. If the answer is yes, you stay standing. If the answer is no, you sit down, okay? Standing, yes, no, sit down. How many of you have had one or more cups of coffee? If you've had one or more cups of coffee, stay standing. I'm impressed. I thought it would be more. Okay, stand back up. Stand back up. Coffee is life, y'all. One day you'll figure that out. Okay, number 2, Christmas before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. So Christmas people, sit down, because we all know what my answer is going to be. If you like Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving, sit down. So are these my Thanksgiving purists? We do Christmas after Thanksgiving, is that true? Thank you, I'm glad that we agree. You guys get a point. Okay, everybody stand back up. Everybody stand back up. You're doing great. Doing great, we're getting the blood flowing. Doing great. Okay, so serious, like more actual serious question. If you have a grandparent and a parent that went to college and finished, I need you to sit down. So grandparents and parents, you have at least one grandparent, at least one parent that both went to college. Okay. If you have somebody in your immediate family, so a parent or a sibling that went to a 4-year college, got a degree, sit down. Okay, now if you sat down but you have a sibling and not a parent that finished, so neither one of your parents finished college, stand back up. Congratulations, you guys are first-generation college students. Yeah. Now, what I can say is my friends behind me should also be standing. It's okay, I didn't tell them to. I'm standing because I have to, but I also would be standing. So congratulations, first gen, you rock. Okay, you guys can sit down. So this morning, November 8th, is actually National First Generation College Student Day, okay? It's a day that is actually celebrated nationwide, and it's because people have realized that first-gen students are kind of a big deal, both because they're awesome, but also because first-gen students have some obstacles that maybe other students don't have. So we wanted to build something here at Campbellsville specifically to make sure that our students are taken care of, right? To make sure that our first-gen students have the highest graduation rate in the nation. I would love for us to have that number behind us, right? So what I want to do this morning is stop talking and let you hear from my friends up here, but I want them to introduce themselves. so you get an idea of who's up here. And then if you have questions for them, this is your moment this morning. So I'll run around and give you the microphone, let you ask them questions. If you don't ask questions, it just gets awkward, and I have other questions that I'll insert. But I would love for you all to get to know what you want to know from our panel. So if you would, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Ruiz, and I'm an associate professor of sociology. I've been at Campbellsville for about 7 years. And my process was a little bit stop and start in going through. I was a first gen. And if that wasn't difficult enough, I made it even more complicated by becoming a single mother halfway through the process. And so, but I majored in sociology. I had a minor in criminology. And then I stopped and worked and finished raising a small family for a while. And then went back, got a master's degree in sociology, and I received a graduate certificate in women and gender studies. Stopped, worked for a while, continued to raise my family, and then went back to get a PhD in about 2002. And in that time, I specialized in race, class, and gender inequality and statistics, still with a PhD in sociology. Loved sociology.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Blade Reynolds. I'm a junior here at Campbellsville. I major in chemistry and biology and minor in math. As far as the experience through here, I've started as a pre-med, like pharmacology, and as of right now, I haven't switched from that yet, but that's one of the major things I'd like to talk about later today, is that being a first-generation student, you don't really know what to expect when coming into college, and a lot of people's plans change, and I think that needs to be talked about more here today.
Good morning. I am Donna Hedgepath. I am the Provost, Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Campbellsville University. And I'm a first-generation college student. I'm a graduate from Fulton County High School. That's in far western Kentucky. I can't think of any family member that went to college. So I was really an anomaly when I came to Campbellsville as an undergrad. I have a bachelor's degree in music education, and I taught in high school and middle school for about 10 years. Here in this area, worked on my master's degree in education from Campbellsville, and then made my way to the University of Kentucky, where I got my PhD in music education, and here I am.
Good morning, everyone. I am Zoe Scott. I'm from Glasgow, Kentucky, which is about an hour away from here. I'm a senior, and I'm studying environmental science with a minor in criminal justice administration.
Thompson, undergraduate degree at Lindsey Wilson College. I double majored in communications and media studies and master's degree in sports leadership.
I was hoping he wasn't going to mention that other school, but at least he's making better choices now, am I right? Okay. Thank you all. Okay, so anybody got any burning questions to start with before I even look at mine? Yes, sir.
So what do you think is like the biggest impact that you have in like being first generation students? Do you hope that this is forging a path for your family? Like, how was that journey for you? Like, was it very hard?
I'll mention impact real quick because it's pretty compelling in my family. Being the first, I actually have an older sister who did not go to college initially because she had babies and could not go to school. So anyway, upon coming here, what's happened? My sister, her 4 children, and their spouses are all graduates of Campbellsville University.
I can second that. About impact, so I wasn't supposed to be coaching. My senior year in track and field, when I was at Lindsey Wilson, I think like on my last jump, I was like really emotional. In my mind, I was supposed to be a national champion that day, and I think I placed like 5th or 6th. And so I threw my jersey off, I ran out the gate, and things like that. And I remember my coach saying, "You're gonna be able to give back to the sport one day, you just don't know how yet." And so I guess using that, and then it kind of pushed me into coaching. And so when I go out to recruit, just being honest, I look for people that kind of have those similar backgrounds, if that makes sense. And the reason why is because I want to be a game changer, or I want to be good trouble, if that makes sense. And so I feel that if I can continue to pour tons of people into the university that's not supposed to be here, and they graduate, and then that's enough impact right there.
A couple of things I wanted to share with you all, just to give you some numbers. When you all were standing up earlier, my first gen folks, what you may not have realized is that our freshman class this year is 41% first generation. Let that sink in for a second. Half would be 50, right? We are way closer to half of our student body, freshmen, being first gen than not. What I want you to highlight in that is that there's strength in numbers, right? You are not alone in this. You are not the only one experiencing some of the things you're experiencing. That's why this matters. That's why today matters. The other number I want to throw at you, though, is that only about 27% nationwide, only about 27% of first-generation college students graduate within 4 years. When we track first-gen students, only about 27% of them have graduated in 4 years. That's a number that I don't like nearly as much. So that's why we're having these conversations, okay? This is why this matters. Any other questions? Who's got a question? Miss Kylie Miller, everybody give our student activities director a hand.
Okay, so those numbers you gave are staggering, like you said, and that's why, you exist to help our first generation students. But how do we as individuals, whether it be a staff person, a faculty person, I'm asking our panel, I'm sorry. So how do we as faculty staff, how do we as friends or people who live in the dorms, how do we support those people who are first generation?
One of my student friends.
I'll take that one. It's interesting. One thing that first gens often struggle with is something called imposter syndrome, which is this overwhelming sense that you just don't belong, that you don't fit in, that you're kind of pretending to be something that you're not. And I know with me, when I was going through the process, really, it was professors that just kept giving me positive feedback. I remember the first time, because when I was going through school, I was just woefully average when I was going through elementary school and high school. And I remember the first time one of my professors looked at me, and she looked at me and she was like, you really get this. You really understand this material. I'm really impressed. And that was it. Nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. And that really lit a fire. So I think just kind of that positive reinforcement, recognizing the talents, and recognizing the talents in the raw or in the rough, because oftentimes there's a concept in sociology called cultural capital, where there's value in things that are not economic, and so the ability to be articulate, the ability to write an email, the ability to have a conversation that uses, educated language, that's all a learning process. And sometimes when people get here from first generation families, they've not been privy to that process. So I think recognizing that raw talent and encouraging it is a really big deal on campus.
I'd like to add to that. So I had this high school teacher when I was going to Mercer County, and his name was Dr. Eka. And Dr. Eka, he was really my inspiration for going to college. So during the year that I had him, during my sophomore year, we studied different reactions and different biological systems and all the biological terms. There was a test that we looked at. It was Benedict's test, for those that are familiar with it. It's when complex carbohydrates break down into simple, and you can use the Benedict solution to tell if enzymes have worked. And I remember learning that, and he was like, Blade, you just picked that up like it was nothing. And through that, he saw my potential and he used it. He created this passion for science that I now have today. And he also learned to ask questions. He's like, Blade, what do you want to do with your life after this? Like, what do you want to do with after high school? You seem to have this passion. Let's put it into something. Let's make you into the person you should be. And I just feel like that was really big, having that relationship with him, doing things outside of school. Like, for example, he took me up to NKU to see the cadavers lab, and just being able to see and have these different, getting to see these different things kind of provoked me to strike an interest in college. And without that, I don't know if I would have been here today. And having that relationship, that's kind of why I came here to Campbellsville. It's a small school, and I was looking for that relationship again, which I'm glad to say I've made a couple of those since I've been here.
Blade is really smart, in case you guys were wondering. He starts talking about biology or chemistry, and my eyes glaze over.
And I was thinking, I don't know if I've been inspired by a cadaver lab, but that's pretty awesome.
Right. I want to add too, because I can brag on somebody in the room. When I'm also first gen, right? That's why this is a big deal. But when I was here, I was in a class, and one of my professors was like, "Hey, I'm new here. I don't know much about town. If anybody has some information I need to know, stop by. Let me know what's good in Campbellsville," which the answer is summer snow, right? Back in the day, that was one of the only options, by the way. But that person is Dr. Scott Wigginton, sitting right here, and he became somebody that drove me to do the things that I've done to this point. He's somebody that gave me a love for travel, or like that we shared a love for travel. He's somebody that said, "Hey, you should come back and get your master's degree." I had never thought about a master's degree before Dr. Wigginton saw that ability in me. So he's somebody that became a mentor, a friend, somebody that texted me this morning and said, "Hey, you're gonna do great, I'm proud of you." Those are the people you want in your life. Those are the people that will change an entire trajectory. So just wanted to say that on a microphone. Thank you, Dr. Wigginton. Okay, any other questions? I should stand in the middle, and then it wouldn't take so long.
So you keep talking about 4-year degree. So if your parent is a nurse, say, and has an associate degree, does that consider them or consider you to be a first gen too?
You would still be first gen if they didn't get a 4-year degree, because getting a 4-year degree, being on a campus with 4-year degrees, is a different experience than a 2-year associate's. It's just a different, there are needs that a first gen would have in a 4-year program that maybe your mom still wouldn't understand. Yeah.
What if you have a parent that has a degree but got it through online? Would that child still be considered first gen or no?
That's a good question. I feel like that might be something.
Modality does not matter.
Okay. That's why we have her on the panel. So you would not be considered first gen if they finished the 4-year degree. Anybody else? Question? Gonna go to my handy dandy sheet here.
Just pick on somebody.
I don't want to be mean yet. I don't want to be mean. Hey, Blade, talk about, you were talking about wanting to make sure we have a conversation about paths and major decisions and such. Say more about that.
Okay, so when you come to college and you go through advising, the first thing they ask you is what is your major? What are you wanting to do with your life? And honestly, when I came here, I had no clue. I just picked something and went with it. And I feel like, I don't know the exact statistic on this, but you are more often to change your major at least once than you are to stay with the major that you pick when you first come in.
Average is 4 times.
4 times? See, it's just a huge statistic that I don't feel like gets talked about enough. And that first year, you're kind of just going through the motions, seeing what you like, what you don't like. And I feel like that's the most crucial time, is that's when you should be deciding what you want to do with your life. And a lot of people, they just kind of throw that away. And I feel like if you don't talk about it, if you don't try to take diverse courses and figure out what you want to do with your life, then you'll be more likely to drop out. So I feel like we need to encourage students more to consider their futures. I feel like just categorizing students in a major or like a specific field is almost too narrow, I feel like. So I don't feel like the first year we should really categorize people by majors, because then you don't get to take the full course of gen eds. You kind of gear yourself more to figuring out or pathing yourself into a specific field that you haven't even decided yet. So I feel like we should focus more on getting gen eds done earlier in the first year, that first semester, and then also constantly asking that question rather than just asking it every 6 months. I think
So
that's...
we want to normalize changing a major, because it does happen a lot, actually. So if you're in a major and you're like, you know what, actually, I don't like this as much as I thought I was going to like this, it's okay for you to change. And it would be better for you to do that sooner rather than later. Not saying you're having a hard time in a subject and you don't need to push through. Just, you know what, I don't have a passion for this that I thought I would have. So just things to think about. Anything to add?
I had a very similar experience to what Blade just described. I spent my freshman and sophomore year focusing on gen eds, and I constantly asked myself, is this the major that I want to do? Are these the courses that I want to take? And I even took courses that weren't necessarily within my course requirements so that I could figure out if that's something that I was passionate about, if that's something that I really wanted to study and learn about. So definitely ask yourself that question, because when you're first gen, this is a really big experience that you're having, and this is a really big thing you're experiencing that can change your life. So you want to make sure that you're doing what you're passionate about and what you want to do with that experience.
So I'll go ahead and just ask one of our questions here. What was a struggle you experienced while attending college as a first-gen scholar?
Not having enough money. Never having enough money. So,
Anybody else feel that?
I was going to say no money, no car.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a rumble in the crowd.
Yeah. Not being able to go out with friends, not having enough for textbooks, sometimes not having enough for food. I mean, it was rough.
So one of the main struggles of first-gen college students is a lot of times there's some intersectionality with low income and underrepresented people. So
Make friends with a car owner.
yes, find somebody with a car.
I did, and I ended up marrying her brother, so that all worked out for me.
Win-win. How about, did you ever feel discouraged because of your background as first gen, as somebody that didn't have money or didn't have a car, or people feeling like they knew you based on what you look like? Did any of you all ever have that instance, and how did you overcome it?
I can just start out by when I first started my journey at WKU. It was a lot of times where I would go and talk to an advisor, and they would ask me questions, about what is it that you want to do, and they kind of talked to me as if I didn't know what I was talking about, even though I didn't know. But it's almost like that support. It's kind of like she kind of seen through me, as in, okay, he's the first one out the house to do this. We can kind of see he's all over the place, schedule's all over the place. He registered late. Doesn't have his dorm stuff together, and so it kind of pushed you into that category of, all right, they're already like looking at me as he's gonna be out the door in December, or probably even before that. And then I can even add, it's just sometimes being a black man, they already look at you just like that. They look at you as, he'll be here in August, he may not even make it past October. And so sometimes when you have to face a lot of those things, it's almost like it's trying to set you up to go ahead and fail, if that makes sense. And so I guess just me even working in higher education right now, I'm trying to change that. And so, like I said, it's just that was the biggest struggle just in general, It's already set up like, okay, he's just a student athlete, just like we all are. But I try my best to not be seen as that, so then they can understand that, we are here for business and different things like that. So, but that was probably one of the biggest struggles.
Mine was my family. I don't know if you guys ever heard the saying, getting above your raisin. Has anybody ever heard that saying? I was accused of that a lot. Why are you trying to be above your raisin? I was also accused, of being selfish. I should probably just stay home and take care of my kids, or just, I was pressured a lot to get married. And even to this day, I think my family doesn't quite understand what I've studied all these years. So there's just conversations that I had to move away from with them, that I had to find another space to talk to people or to geek out with people about sociology. And it wasn't my family. And that was hard because, you're excited about something and you want to go home and share it with your family. And sometimes that can be either intimidating for your family or they don't understand. So I think that was a challenge.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's generationally, Dr. Ruiz and I probably have similar experiences, but yet it's still the same. But I had similar. It wasn't my immediate family. They were proud of me, especially my parents. But it was the extended family, the cousins, going back to church, some of my friends who stayed home. I literally had one aunt say, "Getting a little big for your britches," is what I heard when I would go back. Just because my really bad hick accent started to clear up a little bit. I was a voice major. I had to, But those were just some of the comments. I think the stereotype, maybe it was self-inflicted at some extent, because I expected to be judged differently just because, I didn't have the money or the outfits or the resources just around me that some other folks had, and my parents just didn't. They did not know how to have a conversation with me. So I think the frustration, and again, just be careful not to self-inflict yourself with a stereotype that maybe they are not giving it to you, but you expect it just because of what your family put into you. So just because, don't expect the same from your friends here on campus as you're getting at home. Yeah.
I think I had a similar self-inflicted experience to that. That's something that motivates me still, is how I think that I'm perceived as being first gen, the things that I have, the tools that I have to help me. But in reality, the campus is very open and you have a space for community, and people are in the same boat that you're in and they want to help you. And those stereotypes a lot of times are self-inflicted, and you think that you're in that boat, but really you're not. And people see you for the equal that you are and for someone who's deserving of education as well.
Sometimes we can get in our own head and be our own worst enemy, right? I think it was Dr. Ruiz talked about imposter syndrome. Does everybody know what that is? It's feeling like the space you're in, you're not meant to be there. That they can't possibly know me, or they wouldn't give me this much authority, or they wouldn't let me stay in this class, or they wouldn't let me. It's feeling like they must misunderstand who I am because I don't belong here, right? And in all reality, if you're sitting in this room, guess what? You belong here. And that's what we want to shout from the rooftops. You belong here. You put in the work. You're sitting here. You got up this morning to come to chapel. You belong here. So, okay, I'm coming. Bringing this with me. Is it you? Okay.
In regards to being a first-generation student, or to be approaching graduating, what can we do as those that, I was a student athlete when I first came to CU, and it was very prominent when I got a phone call to come and play football for Coach Finley. It really was a blessing. But when you progress through life and you get to the stage where you didn't get the degree then, and as we seek to get it now, those that are going to be first-generational graduates, what can we do as not being concentrative on being the athlete or student athlete, to be the best student and future servant leader in our communities, in our families, and across the campus? What can we do when we have those type of stereotypes that we have to overcome as being Afro-American or first-generational student, or not an athlete now. It's important that we do obtain our education versus putting it off. What can we do to push that theme to others that are looking at us?
I could start out. I guess I'm really big on excellence. Now, I can't define it. The reason why is because excellence is, or I could even talk about success, is so long. I would say I'm a representation of Black excellence. And the reason why is because I wake up every day happy on what I do. And so what I try to instill into the younger generation is I try to show them that them going to class, studying, using the resources, different things like that, it can actually push them moving forward. I'm really big on, if you're late, all you're gonna do is just kind of condition your mind on being late to your career later down the road. If you lie, different things like that, you're only gonna condition it into lying into your future. And so I try my best to kind of use these things when I have them as an athlete, to try to help mold into when they get over into their future when they're not an athlete anymore, if that makes sense. And I honestly feel that that transition of becoming a non-athlete sometimes is probably the hardest thing ever, because you're always on this strict schedule. I know I got weights, I got class, got practice, got study hall, meeting, and then I got to just keep doing it all over again. And then it comes to the point where, okay, now I just got a 9-to-5 job. That's it. And so guess what? A lot of those former student athletes, they don't strive forward in life because they're just so used to this busy schedule. And then when those things are over, it's kind of like they just get dropped. And so what I try my best to do, I'm not the best at all, but what I try my best to do is I try to create some type of happiness just throughout what we do, because this won't be forever. When they run a PR race, it won't be forever. They might be their last PR race. But hopefully I can instill something in the work ethic and everything that they did throughout this time to where they can be happy moving forward that, okay, I'm settled. I closed that chapter and I'm ready to open up a new one. And I think sometimes our student athletes don't get to close the chapter the right way, especially as Black men and Black women, because sometimes that was their only way of getting to school. To be honest, that was the only reason why I went. But if I could go back and change it, they wouldn't be today. And so we have to, and I know it's super hard and we have to wear a couple more hats, but we have to really understand that it's bigger than down set hut, down back push, hit the three. It's way bigger than that, because if we never instill it, then that's all it is. We might as well just be a post-high school program and not even be a 4-year, program. Does that make sense? And so we have to try to instill those things on what's going to happen later. I try my best to be really big on what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? Because this can be forever, yes, but you can't be a professional athlete forever either. So what's going to happen next? And so we see it every day. We see professional athletes, once they retire, they don't know what to do next, even coaches. So try to take a lot of the things that you're learning right now today and just try to instill them moving forward. Working with people that you don't want to work with, like I can use track all day long. Being on a relay team and you got to work with people that don't listen, when you get out into the workforce and into life, it teaches you how to work with people. It teaches you how to calm it down, break things down a little bit slower, different things like that. And so that's why I guess I see myself as excellence. And it's not because of, making a certain amount or accolades and things like that. It's just waking up every single day and just being happy with all the chapters that I closed. So
turning passion into purpose. Is that how you look at it?
Yes, just like that. So if that answered your question a little bit, if we can just instill just a little bit more on why they're here from day one and not wait till day 365, because some might not even make it that far, honestly. And sometimes I even tell the athletes every day, look around the room. Not all of us will be here. I want us all to be here, but it's always going to be one that just won't hear the message. But if we can just keep working harder to push the message out, they might not hear it from me, but they can hear it from her. And then that can be the reason why she stays, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good response.
I also like to highlight the order in which the words are said, student, athlete. That, you came here and maybe athletics is the way you got here. And I'm glad that that is something that has happened. But the reality is, I know y'all don't want to come here and play sports and not graduate. So doing the things that will highlight being a student and an athlete, those things are both important. So not forgetting one or the other.
Yeah, I think, Charity, I like that point because it's one thing to get to college, it's another thing to finish. And a little bit of insider information, people with degrees, we always associate degrees with intelligence, right? And yeah, that has something to do with it, but really, somebody who holds a degree is really just stubborn. They just went through it. And a person who has a PhD or a doctorate, they're an expert in being stubborn. So it's, there are plenty of people out there who are super intelligent that don't have degrees. It's the tenacity. It's and also to speak to your question, sometimes you can't help what people, well, not sometimes, you really can't help what people think of you, not at all, but you can prove them wrong. So, you can just finish, even if you finish with a C average, just finish.
Yeah, that doesn't go on the diploma. So, okay. Why y'all all got to be in the back?
You have exercise this morning.
I know, right?
Get your steps in.
No, make sure I'm not holding the microphone. Got to move the watch, right?
Okay, so a lot of my family have degrees, one of my parents, both my grandparents. And I know you said you have a degree in music and you're a vocal major. They didn't come here, so I'm the first student to come to Campbellsville. What would your advice be to first generation or students who are going to a college that's unfamiliar? How would you, what would your advice be to them to balance the schedule of the music also with being social and making those friendships? Because I'm sure you realize, and even the mothers, the single mothers, what would your advice be to those students?
I think the balance piece was difficult. My first semester, I was a straight A student in high school, whole 9 yards, came here and I made 2 C's. And of course, my parents didn't understand the rigor of college, and I thought they were going to make me stay home at Christmas. That's when the grades were mailed to their mailbox, and they saw them before I did. So yeah, I think balancing, I was overwhelmed with, actually, I became too social too soon, and I was a music major, and taking 15 to 18 hours, and I was also wanting to be involved in ministry. So I was just trying to do everything, and I learned the hard way. So I think for me is to become organized and be able to have boundaries with your life. One thing about the School of Music at that time, which was the late 80s and early 90s, we were a smaller campus. And if you were a music major, I literally was in every ensemble. I was singing soprano, and I was playing the bass trombone in jazz band and playing the piano and a company. I did everything. So that was a great experience for me, but it about killed me. So I appreciate you asking that question. It was a life balance that took me about a year to establish the fact that I could say no to activities outside of academics. So I did rally, and I did manage to graduate with a decent GPA. It wasn't my best, but it just inspired me. As Dr. Ruiz said, I had the grit and the determination. I got a master's and went on to my PhD with, really good academic success. So I think boundaries, organizing, saying no, and also taking time to reflect. I tell you, and I can't leave this stage today without letting you know that without my faith and my prayer life, I would not have been successful So that was that ribbon, that thread that is with me today is my relationship with Christ, and that's what carried me through, even when I felt like I was alone. So I guess hopefully you can take that with you.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I had a similar experience, you were asking about being a single mother, that I didn't prioritize my time either, and that's why I became a single mother in college, because my priorities got a little skewed. And, talk about the stuff is real now moment, when you're having to be responsible for another human, and this person's life is contingent on you making better decisions. Yes, that really shook me up. So the following 2 years of my bachelor's degree, I got real serious, real quick with it. So, and yeah, I remember being in grad school at that point. I was divorced and I had 3 kids and I was getting my PhD, and I remember a professor looking at me and she was like, and it can be very elitist in grad school, and she's like, oh my gosh, how do you do it with all these kids? Because you don't have kids when you're in grad school. That's not du jour. And so, and I looked at her and I was like, prayer. Because if you told me, I don't know. There are days, honestly, I don't know how I got through other than prayer and God just pushing me through, and that's the truth. So.
Stubbornness and prayer, that's what we got. Okay, one last question for you all. This was not on the sheet, so, but I got the opportunity to thank Dr. Wigginton. If you could thank someone and show gratitude for the way they provided, whether it's somebody here, family, who would be your person that you would show some gratitude for getting you to this point? Do like a, 30 to 45 second gratitude sharing. So we'll go just down the line.
First of all, would be Kathy Caleb, who has passed. She's the professor who I said at the beginning said, you really get this. And the second would be a man by the name of Edward Bolander, who has also passed, who one day I was sitting in his office and I noticed a book on his shelf. And I said, well, that looks interesting. And he was like, well, you want it? You can have it. And he handed it to me. And just that little moment of keep on, following your interest.
I think mine would have to be my inspiration, Dr. Eka. He really instilled the person I am today, and I'd like also to thank the professors that I have now, Professor Sutton, Dr. Sahu, all the ones that I have now to continue to grow my passions and pull me in the direction I want to be in, and also my family, even though they don't really understand what I do at school, they also are really supportive because they didn't go to college themselves, so they're like, you are the first one to do this, so they're really excited to see me succeed.
First, my dad, and because he lived vicariously through me. He was the smartest man I knew. He was a walking calculator. But he passed when I was in my early 30s. But he had a huge influence, and I have his stubbornness. Second, there was a professor, Dr. Bob Gaddis. He was the dean of the School of Music. He called me in one day and said, you need to be more assertive. You're smarter than you think you are. Yeah.
I think that I want to first thank my professors and my people that are in my academic life. So Amy Berry, Shaylin Bishop, Richard Kessler, those 3 people definitely, they push me and they make me feel valid and like I have a spot and that I am smart enough to be here. And then I also want to thank Alexa Calix because she told me that I could go to college and she made that feel like it was an actual option for me when I didn't see it like that when I was graduating high school.
I actually have 3. I want to start out with my high school coach, Hall of Fame coach, Coach Newton at Louisville Central High School, just for giving me the opportunity and just pushing me to go to college. Then I want to also, this one is a little weird, but Coach Jenkins, he was my first coach at WKU. When I had got academically suspended, he didn't call me, he didn't text me, he didn't send me an email telling me to get in summer classes, anything like that. The only thing he told me is you need to learn how to become a man and understand what you need to do in life. And so I think that right there helped push me into making better decisions moving forward and different things like that. So I have the utmost respect for him because if he would have been on my back and all that stuff, I feel like I never would have learned how to evolve or do things forward. And so we actually still talk to this day. And then Coach Gordon, he was actually my coach when I was at Lindsey Wilson. He took the chance on me. I was ineligible coming from WKU. He helped me get through winter classes. Any other stuff that happened throughout that time, he always had my back. And he's seen something bigger than me. Every time that I would give up on myself, he was always that person that was literally, putting me back into my place. And so that was kind of like, my father figure while I was going through school. And so that's why I have 3 different coaches that have put like a huge impact on me. And so that's why I love what I do today.
Thank you all. Can you guys give them a hand? Get you a cheerleader like Miss Wanda also. She's a great cheerleader. Do we have slides at all? Can we put up the last one if you have slides? If not, then no worries. No slides. Okay. So here's the deal. CU First Gen, if you are First Gen student here, we have Instagram, Facebook accounts. Follow us. CU First Gen. And if today you want to show a little First Gen pride and share your First Gen stories, snap a picture on campus, doing something you never thought you'd do in a place like this, we're all blessed to be here. Show a little First Gen pride. Let other people know that they're not alone. And use the hashtag First Generation. Celebrate First Gen. So there are some stickers and magnets out there if you're First Gen. You want to take some. If you asked a question and I didn't give you anything, come up here afterwards. Otherwise, thank you all so much for listening, for asking questions. And I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Trent Creason.
Hey, you guys give it up for Charity. Charity and I went to school together, and maybe you meet some people in your life that you'd be willing to go to battle with, and Charity is one of those people. So I want you to know that you have somebody like Charity in your corner, regardless of what student you are, where you're from, or who you are. One thing I think that we've heard very clear today is that relationships impact us, that we are a result of relationships. Maybe you're not a first-gen student and you connected with this story in some kind of way. I just want to encourage you guys that we have each other, and you have great people like you see on stage. You have so much more than you realize. It's so easy sometimes to focus on what we don't have. There's this really lovely story about Jesus taking a few fish and a few loaves of bread and multiplying it and really blowing everybody's mind of what he did. And I'm still praying for you guys, wherever you're at, that you're going to be surprised with how God multiplies in your life. And so I just want to pray that over you guys this morning as we close out. And I got a couple of announcements real quick for you. But let's pray. Father, I just thank you for these students, for the families, for the people. None of us at all are self-made. We are a result of people and blood and sweat and tears pouring into us. And we are a result of your grace and your goodness. And so, God, just help us to continue to depend on that, but also help us to encourage each other, that we're not a 40% or a 60% or a 30%. We're a 100% Campbellsville family to encourage one another, lift one another up, be with each other, encourage one another, be stubborn with one another. And so, God, give us the grace and your favor to do that. And I pray these things in your name. Amen. One quick announcement, a great way to serve your community is through Operation Christmas Child. Those boxes are going to be due in chapel next week. So some of you have been bringing those a little early. Just remember, just bring them next week to the chapel. But you can receive credit by scanning the QR code. It's going to be on the screen. If it doesn't work, Sienna in the back. Sienna, wave real quick so you guys know who she is. She's awesome. She has some papers if it doesn't work. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. Thank you.